What is your name?
مرتضی کریمی.
What is it?
مرتضی کریمی.
Is that in English?
No, Persian.
I'm only kidding. Okay.
Persia.
Persia. How long you been studying here?
About 3 years now.
3 years?
Yes.
You're almost there.
Yes, I'm grad. This is my last quarter here. I'm
You know,
graduating.
then you should know so much about the herbal medicines and
Yeah, I know some. Thanks to my instructors, to my
Yeah.
professors. Yeah, I know some.
You know
enough to.
You know famous person in history, the person who really practiced, invented a lot of herbal
Korean.
medicine.
Yeah, Hojun.
Hojun.
Korean. Yeah,
Hojun?
Yeah.
Hojun.
Hojun. Yeah, sorry, I'm not Korean, so my pronunciation is not that.
That's very good. So you're going to be one of these days like Hojun?
I hope so. دکتر کوان، دیوید کوان، ایشون دین اکستنشن ما هستن. همونطور که خدمتتون قبلا عرض کردم، دو تا یونیورسیتی اصلی ما در آنهایم هستش. اینجا اکستنشن ما هست که دکتر کوان دینش هستن و افتخار دادن امروز در خدمتتون باشید. I want to thank you, Kamsahamnida, for coming over. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Today we're going to cover the history of psychology. But before we start, Bob, I would like to ask you a question. Who is the father of psychology?
I believe Wilhelm Wundt, a German psychologist.
Okay. That's what book says. And as you know, the book is written by mostly Western writers. I mean, you are correct. I'm not saying that you are not correct. You are correct. But psychology derived from philosophy about 100 years ago. So before that, it used to be part of philosophy. So Wilhelm Wundt sort of separated it from psychology. But about 200, 300 years before that, there is a Korean physician which is very famous in Asia. If you read his writing, you see that he has prescribed herbs or herbal formulas for psychiatric disorders. So then we can say that most likely he is the father of psychology. Then again, about 1,000 years ago, about 1,000 years ago, if you go back to Persia, there was a young kid practicing as a physician. His name was Avicenna, or in Farsi, Abu Ali Sina, if I'm not mistaken. He became a physician when he was 13 years old or younger. I believe he mastered many different sciences, such as math, philosophy, medicine, and so on. I want to bring one of his cases into discussion today, since we are covering the history of psychology. During his time, there was a king in Persia. His son got sick. It was one of those mental disorders. The son thought he was a cow, and he acted like one. So the king called the court physician or his doctors and asked them to treat the patient. So most of the physicians tried their best, and some, I believe, even lost their heads for not being able to treat the patient. The king was told by one of his ministers that there is a young kid named Avicenna. At that time, I believe he was about maybe 15, 16 or so years old. That he might be able to treat his son. So he hesitated first because, I mean, a more experienced physician could not do the job. So how could one young kid do what the others could not? Anyway, he had no other choice. There was no alternative. So he called the Avicenna, he went to the court and he agreed to treat the son with one condition, and the condition was he should do whatever he wanted to do and he should not be asked any question. The king agreed to that. So the physician or the doctor, which was Avicenna, called the guards to bring in the son. So they brought in the son and he asked a few questions. The son, instead of answering in a human voice, started to answering like a cow, and he started making noises like a cow. He looked into his eyes and told him, okay, you are a cow, we're going to treat you as a cow, and asked the guard to take the kid to a stable, to the king's stable or royal stable. So they took him there and they kept him there for a week or two, and they fed him hay like other animals. After about a week or two, he asked the guards to bring the kid or the king's son back to the palace. They brought him back and he told him, okay, I can see you've been fed very good, and it's time for you, you look very fat, so it's time for you to be slaughtered. And asked the guard to take him to the slaughterhouse. They took him to the slaughterhouse and they sort of started to cut the head. Then the son realized this is not something to play with or joke with. So he sort of got cured by, being there and seeing that act. So if we don't call this psychology, then what do we call this? Isn't this psychology? So when we say psychology has been there for thousands of years, only treated as philosophy, we are right. I mean, by bringing Hajun or Avicenna or other physicians such as Farabi into the picture, we can see that psychology has been there for many, many years. Even though the writers are not mentioning those, they contributed to this field humongously, and we should appreciate their works.